And we're live. Welcome to Music Matters with Jason Tramm. My name is Jason Tramm. I'm delighted that you can join us for our unique podcast community where we explore the triumphs and challenges of the performing arts world as seen through the eyes of distinguished colleagues. Thank you so much for helping us grow. We recently hit 1,559 subscribers, and we are growing every day. You can hear us on YouTube, on Facebook Live. Now you can hear us also on LinkedIn Live. You can hear us on all the podcast platforms on Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts, and also on the New York City radio from 11:30 to noon on WMCA. That's 570 AM. And also on the FM dial as well. So we're so delighted that you can be here today for Music Matters. And here on Music Matters, we discuss across a variety of genres from classical to pop and contemporary. We discuss musical innovation and self-discovery. So we're delighted that you can join us today. Our guest is Voce Nova, a classically inspired vocal pop duo, both classically trained and rock as well. And they do some great work, and they've got a real big concert coming up we're going to talk about. So welcome to Gilad and Natalia.
Hey, thanks for having us, Jason. Good to see you.
Great to see you. Gilad, we've had you on the show before. This is your second time on, so welcome back. You're one of the few people I've had on twice. I'm glad you're here. And Natalia, I look forward to meeting you.
Me too. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for having us.
So tell us what Voce Nova means. I know what it means, but tell us why you chose that name and what does that mean to you?
The fact that you even say it correctly, kudos to you. We have to educate a little bit, but Voce Nova in Latin means fresh voice. That's exactly what we do. We bring a fresh voice into crossover world and make it fun again and exciting again.
Yeah, I've seen some of your work. I know you was on America's Got Talent, and how exciting, and yeah, really exciting. And I know Gilad's got a background in rock and roll as well as his classical. Do you as well?
Well, I was listening to it growing up, but you know what it is? It's an energy. It's freedom. That's what it means for me, rock and roll. And I experienced this through my voice, through my vocal journey, and it's so fun to be able to experiment with your voice in that kind of way, you know?
Fantastic. I love it. Now, you both have great accents, so I'm guessing you're not originally from New York.
Really? Oh, that's it. I tried to disguise it now.
So tell us your journey. Well, tell us how you came to do what you do, and start with your individual journeys. And how did you come together as a duo?
Well, I was born in Belarus, in Minsk, and raised in Israel. And after my military service, I decided to become an opera singer and take it seriously and to become the best opera singer I can be. And I had the fortune to be with one of the best coaches in New York and be accepted to multiple, Manhattan School of Music, Juilliard. And I decided to study with a specific teacher. And I did my undergrad, my master's, and pretty much that's it. And I had the opportunity to perform different kinds of roles, starting with my second year, which is unheard of, which is such a blessing because I had the ability to really experiment to do a full opera. And my first opera was Tatiana from Eugene Onegin, which you
can
imagine.
Big role.
Big role and big shoes as a 21-year-old girl trying to figure out still how this whole technique works. And I remember that day that there's so much more than just technique and so much more than, and it's just magic. And I fell in love with singing. And since then, it's just evolved and evolved and evolved. So.
Now, did you always do the crossover pop stuff? Is that new? Is that something you added to your rep later on, or something that was always with you?
So here's the thing. I grew up so I was part of a very famous band. It's called the Neighbors of Chich. It's an Israeli band where you do covers of really known musicals and also originals. And we were traveling the world in different Jewish agencies around the world where we're performing. So that's where I got my triple threat, acting, singing, dancing, and really get kind of familiar with all of these worlds and doing this kind of different music, right? So my voice always been able to sing pop and then go into write classical, whatever. And, during I believe it was my undergrad, I always loved to listen to and then with Bocelli, and something a little bit lighter, something a little bit more interesting, and even Catherine Jenkins. I'm not a huge fan of her, but I like the fact that she brought something new and she took Evanescence song, which was a known song, and made it something completely different. And that kind of sparked that crossover thing for me. And I was like, oh, I want to do it. And I actually recorded a full album doing covers of well-known songs that I always loved. That's like those timeless songs, and create my version of it.
I think we're seeing at a time where there's more and more crossover as the it seems like there's less like companies, regional companies. There's been more and more crossover, people filling that with doing both. And I think that I know when I was in college a million years ago, I saw the Three Tenors, and there was nothing like that crossover of these artists with beautiful voices crossing over into a more fun and like unbuttoned top genre. It was really beautiful.
Yeah, and it's interesting because my journey is similar in many ways. So I was actually born in the States, Israeli parents who were here for school, actually in New Jersey. Went back to Israel with them when I was 3 years old, made Aliyah, and then sang in Israel. And I was also part of these kind of bands, these like kids, these like youth groups that perform all over Israel. So me too. So, and then I came back to the States for 3 years in high school, where I started singing more classical in choirs. I was in high school on Long Island, and I was lucky that my father actually chose a school that had a wonderful choral program.
A lot of great choral programs on Long Island. There's a good amount of them there
at the time, and it was. And that kind of got me into that world. And then I went back to Israel thinking that I was going to go back and sing and be an Israeli artist, like be there, write in Hebrew, do the whole thing. And then between going back to Israel and going into my army service, I had a year of contemporary. I was in a contemporary and jazz music school for a year called Rimon. It's a very well-known school now, not as well-known back in 2000. And they have a really great jazz program that actually has a program that you study there, and then you come to Berkeley and you finish the degree from Berkeley here. So it's a very cool school. But for me, that school actually taught me that I was not going to be able to stay in Israel to make music, because I'm in my essence a rock guy. I grew up listening to that at age 12, my father played Deep Purple for me, and that was the end of it. And what I loved about Deep Purple was the combination of classical elements that really went into that music. Because as we know, a lot of these classic rock artists learned classical first. So that kind of planted the seed. And then going into the classical world in high school, then discovering prog rock. I remember the first time I heard, loved the Pink Floyd, The Who, and then all of a sudden I heard King Crimson in the Court of the Crimson King.
I just saw King Crimson last weekend with my two sons. We went to see King Crimson live at the PNC Bank Arts Center. My God, that is one of the wildest bands I've ever seen. They didn't talk to the audience once. They just played a concert. They don't care. Like, that's the most uncompromising music I've ever seen.
I saw them like 4 years ago, I think it was, and it was mind-boggling. Just
mind-blowing. They had my son's a rock drummer and a jazz drummer. They had the 3 drum sets in front of the band, and it opened with a drum solo. I'm like, I've never seen that before.
So when you grow up like that and you listen to all of that music, so for me, like so what I wanted, I was like, okay, I'm not staying in Israel to make music because it's too small an audience. If I want to make it big, I need to be in a bigger pool. I need to be in a bigger pond. And I decided, okay, during my army service, when I was still performing, actually, I got to perform in the army, I said, okay, I have to go back to the US to study classical so I can be the best rock singer I could be. Mm-hmm. And that's where it really came from. And when I went to Queens College, and it's funny, so I came here after the army, Natalia came here after her army service, she went to Brooklyn College, I went to Queens College. So it's like cutie people. And
only in New York, right? Two people who served in the Israeli army. I was going to say, did you meet in the army? But you guys met in New York, of course. Where else? That's a true New York story, right?
Exactly. So I came here, and I'm like, during my schooling, I was in a rock band. I was in a Pink Floyd tribute band. I had my own rock band. And then after I came out of school, after Queens College, I decided to, then I went into the world of opera. So I performed regionally, I've done concert work, things like that. And in 2016, I actually created OpRock, which is my concept of having myself and a 4-piece rock band join existing orchestras as a pops concert. And the interesting thing is that after tabling that for reasons that we're not going to get into now, I was lost musically because I felt like I found who I was, and then I couldn't do it anymore. And then I met this one.
So what gig did you guys meet on? How'd you meet? Was it a concert? Was it? Tell us about that.
Well, it was a concert. Well, in New York, it's very it's a common thing to do and throw house kind of concerts, especially for the Upper East Side, more rich, could be in the Hamptons too. And that's where we met, and we started talking behind the scenes, and we're feeling the energy right away, but we kind of wanted to like learn more about each other, what you do, how, he was in real estate. I'm also in doing construction in New York, so it's kind of a similar world. Plus all the things we're interested about and talking about crossover from my side and his side. And then just this huge light bulb came up.
We're like, wait, you like crossover? You grew up listening to this and singing this and in these kind of performances? And we're like, okay. Something needs to happen.
Yeah.
And then we actually performed together.
Yes.
And I remember going back home, and I had a video because I videotape everything that I do. And then I went to my wife and I said, I need you to watch this woman because I think I found a person that can actually be on stage with me. Because I'm 6'3". I'm a big guy and I'm very active and and she is a magnificent performer. And my wife's like, yeah. No, this is the person who can deal with you.
Wow.
That's you.
What was the first song? What were some of the first songs you guys performed together?
Libya. Was it Libyano? Was that the first one we started? I think we started the show with that. I think so.
Wow, that's funny.
A little Traviata, can't go wrong with that.
Yeah. Which is funny because that's what we ended up singing at America's Got Talent. That's what got us on the show.
But it was a really awesome version of, right? Wasn't it a different version of Libiamo?
Yeah.
I heard it was awesome.
Not pop enough, but in our idea, we wanted to make, as I said, opera, make it fun again. And when's the last time did you clap for listening to an aria or a duet or whatever, and just have fun? And that's what we wanted to bring with this song, because it's the drinking song, it's the fun song, it's the, it's the together thing. And we decided, and Gilad had an amazing idea of combining it with I'm a rocking beat.
So like being from Israel, we grew up, and we are both Ashkenazi Jews, as you can see. However, when you grow up in Israel, it is a real melting pot of a lot of people from all over, because there are Jewish people everywhere. And growing up, there's this what we call Mizrahi music. It's Eastern music, but it's the stuff that comes from North Africa and the Middle East countries. So
great percussion, a unique beat, and unique flavor. It's really awesome. When I heard that, I'm like, that's really a cool spin on that. All right, it really worked too. Is it on YouTube? If I will link the video if it's on. Is it on your YouTube channel?
So what was that?
Is it on your YouTube channel?
Yes,
I'll put it in the chat.
Oh yeah. Just put it on the YouTube channel. The performance from America's Got Talent is there and all that. But so what we did, just for the audience, just a little, So usually Libiamo is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
Basic waltz. Yep.
Exactly. what we did
Waltz Italiano.
Into a whole other direction. So that. We are
awesome
to do something that nobody has done before. And that is bring, like Natalia says, and I love that you keep saying that word, fun. The one thing about classical crossover music is that it tends to have a lot of this very, I'm going to use the word, but not in a bad way, very schmaltzy. Oh my God, it's crazy. Very schmaltzy.
I've never done any concerts where it's been schmaltzy. No, I'm just kidding. I do a lot of those concerts, and I'm an opera conductor by trade. So when I do these concerts, I'm like, here's the prayer again.
There is room for schmaltz. However, at a certain point, you realize that everyone's doing schmaltz. And for us, we discovered that we don't get lit up with that. And it was really interesting because the first time that we started, when we conceptualized the show back in 2018, we went very broad. We went with things that are very commonly sung in the crossover world. Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen, even though it does have our own, twist, very rocky twist to it. Time to Say Goodbye. Phantom of the Opera, again, with a very, but what we also did, even then, was Natalia's awesome idea to combine Bésame Mucho with Camila Cabello, Havana.
Beautiful.
That Latin flavor, and it's like, oh, this is something a little different. And then we went into, during the pandemic, during 2020, we're like, you know what? We need to just reinvent and see where we can go next.
Where can we push the limits even more? And this is what's really, truly fun. It's this process of taking something in our head that honestly, we don't even know how Asaf even understand what we want from
Asaf,
him.
a music producer who is in Israel, who was in the army with me 18 years ago and is now our music producer, which is amazing.
It's
fun.
Right. So he gets our, Traviata and our Middle Eastern touch, but he has that understanding of the rock that we want, the classical that we want, all those things that we're looking to combine in the same song. And
I really respect the fact that you're doing a fresh new approach, that you're having these pieces commissioned. It makes for a really custom tailored show. And these days, people really want that. They want something, a lot of people, whenever I conduct an opera that's a certain audience, whenever I conduct the Pops concert, people are like, well, I wouldn't normally go to the opera, but that's a great chance to bring them in. Because I'm like, as a teacher, I'm a university professor, I'm always saying, this is if you like this, you're going to love this. But you meet people where they are. If they're attracted to that, they're going to probably come see an opera. It's a doorway for people who wouldn't necessarily go to an opera to really experience something beautiful.
I 100% agree with you. And I think this is my why I do this, because I feel that opera got such a reputation of very high elite, very closed-minded, and there's so many rules, right? And we are really here to show the music is music. And it's all about communicating. It's all about feelings. It's all about, make it interesting, right? And be creative as much as we can. And this is something we're truly excited, because it's honestly a lot of time people say to us, oh my God, I never heard opera and actually like it. And I'm kind of thinking I'm going to go to the opera next season, and that's really makes us so, so happy, because that wasn't our goal, but that's amazing to see the people opening up to this amazing, because opera is such an amazing art form that combines everything in one, like dance and singing and orchestra and all this history and all these amazing things, but sometimes it's too much.
We are the gateway drug. We are the gateway drug. That's
love it.
The idea. We are here to show that when you sing, in the show, I sing Nessun Dorma, okay? But when you get the solo in Nessun Dorma, like, when you do it, it's like, oh, it could be a Jimmy Page solo.
Everybody knows it,
yeah. So that's what we try to convey. That's what we try to bring, and really kind of look at the crossover world and say, you know what? And we're not trying to do it just to do it.
Yeah.
We both connect to it. And it's interesting because we sat down after we realized the show on Tuesday, the show on September 14th.
Tell us about this show on the September 14th.
We would love to have you there in New York City, and you can check it out on our website. But when we were looking at these new songs, we looked at each other after we were done and we said, we went really risky here.
Yeah.
I mean, Jason, we're talking Bizet and Santana.
Ooh.
The same song and mashed up and like
Wait, tell him about Aha. I want to see what he says.
So also another thing, so we wanted something that will be really fun to go with Libiamo, to go with actually Natalia's Titanium. She does Sia's Titanium in the show with a nice operatic break, like really beautiful stuff. And we're like, what else can really work here? Aha and Queen of the Night.
Ooh.
Right?
Take on me. It goes up to I can't. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So, I see. You're getting it.
It's gonna be fun. Yeah. Who would love hearing the music people know. You bring. That's a way that the old. They used to do pastiches, especially in England. They would take famous songs, put them together into musical productions, and make kind of that kind of what grabbed audience at that time. Right as Handel was composing, his music went out of style, and the pastiches came in, which were more kind of English pop songs, but strung together into loose narratives. But it's like you're bringing pop music that everyone's going to know, mixing it with high art, and you create something new and exciting out of it. It's really, really quite creative. Now, how long does it take to put one of these arrangements together? Do you come up with the concept and then give it to your arranger, and then how does that alchemy work?
You want to talk about the process? How we start? How
the process, honestly, we always think about it. You never stop thinking about it because it's always, where can we find the next thing, the song that is going to really, and find the two songs, aria and another song that actually works. And there's so many, how you say, like, parameters.
Yeah, parameters.
Yeah. In order to make it work, right? We're not just going to choose any song. We need songs that people know and recognize and love.
Yeah.
And same thing for opera. We're not going to choose something that nobody knows from Nabucco. We're going to use something that people are going to say, oh, I remember this from this commercial. And
that's key. That's key. You know about this as someone who programs and is aiming to get butts in seats. The idea is to give.
Libiamo is going to work. Nessun Dorma is going to work. You're home free. There's certain chorus scenes I always do. If we're going to do Nabucco, you do Va Pensiero.
Right.
The unofficial Italian national anthem. But
exactly.
It's amazing because we thought about it and we said, maybe Carmina, but it's like it doesn't work without a full choir.
Yeah,
it's always different ideas that we play around with. And Natalia wasn't this time around, because we were going outside of the normal classical crossover realm. It took us about 3 months just to finalize everything, all 7 new songs that we could then sit down, create the structure tracks. So we figure it out. Then we sit down and like, okay, how does this work? How do we do it?
How are we going to actually mesh it?
Yeah.
And yeah.
And then we make the structure track and we send it to Asaf, who does a piano track. And we talk through it, and then he sends it back to us. And then we sit here in your beautiful studio, and we record guides. And then he again calls us and says, okay, let's just talk about the arrangement again. What exactly do you want?
Yeah, and it's a hard thing to say what we want.
You're experimenting. You're in uncharted territory. Yeah, you're experimenting. It's exciting.
Exactly.
And then when he sends it to us, we are very open.
We're like, okay, this is not working. Okay, let's try something else here. Let's say we're doing Ave Maria, okay? And the beginning is this beautiful da-da-da-na-na-na, right? So there's 100 ways you can do that, and what instrument would work with the next song. We're gonna mash it up. I'm not gonna say because I want to keep it a surprise for people who are coming.
But it is a surprise.
Yeah. It's wow. Okay, and we decided that
Van Halen's Jump. No, I'm just kidding. Different track.
No, but definitely a rocking one. Yes.
That's really fun. Okay, I was just totally kidding.
A rocking one. Oh, it is a rocking mashup. Yeah.
Ave Maria and rock and roll. I love it already.
Uh-huh.
So instead of having a harp, right, we thought how we can make it a little bit more edgy. So how can I use a organ, right? Church organ, but in a different setting.
But yeah, that gets you into that like Fender
Darker.
Rhodes, like, place. Not a church organ as much as like a Rhodes kind of gospel-y organ.
Hammond organ, yeah.
Yes.
So those little things, but they really make a whole lot of difference. And of course,
well, I know that mashups make a huge difference in performances. I just saw my 16-year-old son was on tour with John Anderson of Yes, and they had the coolest mashups. Really, really amazing. Because the guy who put that together, he's got Kashmir going into one of the John Anderson songs, and then it ends with it just makes it so special for the audience. You're like, oh, I love that song. Even for a moment, it's like it just gives those flashes of brilliance, and it brings it all home for us. So you mix that with the classical selections like Ave Maria and all these great opera arias. It's a recipe for really something exciting. So tell us where you're performing on Tuesday and where can people go to find out more about it.
Tuesday, the 14th, September 14th, we're going to be live. Now, usually we perform in private events.
Yeah, corporate events, things like that.
So we're not, this is a really unique time for audience, especially after those 2 years we didn't have any live in close spaces.
In close quarters.
Yeah, we didn't have any shows for anybody. So we really wanted to give this gift and share it as many people as possible, and to feature our 7 new songs and really give the audience this amazing opportunity to hear us live for a full hour. It's going to be in Drome in the East Village.
In East Village, yeah 85 Avenue A between 5th Street and 6th Street. Yeah, it's a great music venue.
Great food.
Yeah, and honestly, it's a beautiful space. It's like tall ceilings, beautiful. It's going to be a really cool show that we are actually also going to tape for future use. Just how it is. Always
always have to record your performances
because we're also the producers of this thing, along with my wife Lisa, who is our co-producer. And they get along better than we do sometimes. No. But so we are really excited about it. And the nice thing, and we talked about, making opera accessible and opening it up. So the tickets online are only $30.
Yep.
So a portion of the proceeds, because we have been very fortunate to both have work during the pandemic, we actually are going to be donating parts of the proceeds are going to go to COVID artist relief.
Oh, that's great. We all know. I mean, I'm a musician as well. The devastation that so many of our colleagues went through during the COVID period. I started this whole podcast because I wasn't guest conducting. All my European gigs were canceled, and we had all this time on our hands. Wow. So my son and I started the podcast. We've done over 200 of these, and it became a chance for musicians to talk about self-discoveries and innovations. And I'm just amazed by how creative the creative professions have been, and how we dealt with this. Everyone's found such unique solutions, and for you guys, it sounds like you really got your rep organized and your arrangements tight and new ideas. It was a good time for that.
Yeah, and we did do a couple of virtual shows.
We did not only virtual shows, we did outdoor. We did whatever we could, but honestly, this time for us was a blessing. Just not only personally to kind of recoup and get out the hamster wheel a little bit and to kind of rethink everything. But also to connect with our audience. So we did a bunch of lives the way you do. Yeah. And it's so important because in the end of the day, it's all about the connection with our audience that supports us.
And it was really interesting to be in that place, especially because, you mentioned our America's Got Talent performance, which was taped on March 14, 2020.
Well, let's dig into that for sure. So tell us about that. What was it like? I imagine I posted the link of here. It's on the link on here. Your video's on the chat feature, so people can check that out. What was it like taking a stage like that on a national audience and all the glitz and the glamour? Tell us about that process.
It wasn't glamorous at all.
it was
It rarely is, right? For the performers.
Because it was the day that the entirety of Hollywood shut down. So we were there. So after a rigorous several months before we even got there, we were, after auditioning several times for the producers and things like that, like it took a while to get there. We didn't even know. So we shot on the 14th. On March 11th, we were still getting emails from the production saying we are not sure if we're gonna fly you out or not because of this COVID thing. So are there any other dates and whatever? So we're like, okay, we're ready to go. So they ended up flying us out on March 13th. We were there, showed up on the 14th in the morning. We showed up at 10 o'clock in the morning. By 1:30, they grabbed everybody and said, okay, everyone here who is not involved with the actual shoot in the hall is being sent home. So from 1:30 in the afternoon until we got finally called up at 8:30, the two of us and Lisa are there like not knowing anything. Yeah. It was like Jason, it was like the Twilight Zone. All of a sudden,
wow,
a room that was bustling with, they're shooting, B-roll and interviews and doing social media and, a bunch of people. All of a sudden, they turn off the lights.
Crickets.
They start rolling in equipment cases. It was bizarre.
We couldn't even get Starbucks, okay? Even Starbucks was closed.
It was crazy.
And we were sitting there really not knowing if we're even going to go on stage because they said that they couldn't have a certain amount of people in the same place and they might shoot it later or whatever. And honestly, that unknown, which I think we all face all the time recently too.
These days we're used to it now. It's just like, oh yeah, we don't know about that.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah. And think about it. Like, think back to March 14th, 2020. We're sitting there new. And we're like, she's meditating. I'm talking to like whoever I can because that's my way of calming down.
Yeah, I don't see you meditating much. You're like,
she's like, and I'm like, okay, let's go through a routine one more time. Let's just do this, let's that, and just like, and we're like, are we even gonna go on? They were sending people to the hotel, which was literally behind the theater, and we're like, we're not going anywhere. If they say we are shooting for another 20 minutes,
you will be there. You will be there.
Series gonna be on the show. That's what we're doing.
You put all that work in, you got to follow through.
Yes, and it was insane. And by the time we got up to, before we had to go on the stage, we were ready. We were we were centered. The only annoying thing was that we were really excited to finally, as two opera singers, we're used to singing in front of 3 auditors in a hall. We were loving the fact that we were gonna have 3,000 people going.
Yeah. Oh. But you had many more than that at home, so.
Yeah. And we did the same audition. However, we are very, very grateful for the experience. We are grateful for the production team who really were amazing to us and have allowed us to have the kind of national exposure that we got both from being on the show and a full 4.5-minute segment. Remember, some of our friends didn't even.
We gotta know, and that's not even a given that you're gonna be on the show, let alone.
And then they post on the YouTube.
Exactly, and they post it on YouTube after. So, and amazing things are coming from that. It's just a matter of time.
Of course, well, if you made it through that, and you guys have maintained your friendship and your musical camaraderie, I mean, you can do anything, right? After that type of trial by fire.
Exactly what the words I was gonna say. It was trial by fire. If we weren't gonna be friends after that, it was never. It's that, like going through that. I mean, I remember a flight back home. That flight back home.
It was very hard for us. I'm not gonna lie. This is really, really hard when you work so hard and you know the potential and because we performed this particular number in front of different audiences in Brooklyn, in Manhattan, in a different audience, completely different people, and everybody had the same reaction. Everybody were so excited. Everybody were like, We love the drop of the jaw. That's what I live for that, okay? When the switch hits and they're like, what is going on? And we didn't have that. The judges didn't see what we saw, and we knew that if we had the audience, it would be a completely different result, but we don't have, obviously, control over it. But what amazing thing happened, that people over the world saw that, and people wrote us from all these places we didn't even think of, and they were like, "Oh my God, you were amazing!" And they feature us in different, in different
like
websites.
websites and things like that. And we got a write-up in Nepal. We got write-ups in Poland. I mean, things that we never
how cool is that?
Imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, my cousin called me, "You're on my TV in Israel," you know?
So,
wow.
So
it's amazing that, you break down boundaries and you try new things. You have to find your own voice. Everyone does. If you try to do things the way it's been done in the past, it's much harder to break in and make an impact that way.
Yes.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, there are things that work and they're tried and true. And the classical crossover world is a tried and true musical realm at this point. If we're starting it around the three tenors, we're talking about, at this point, almost 30 years. But it was like 94, I think, was the three tenors.
Well, I'm going to go back. I'm going to challenge you go far. Where I'm the music director at Ocean Grove, Enrico Caruso toured his album in 1904. So there was Pops before that too. He put out the LP. He was selling the LP. They wanted to sell records. He did a national tour and did lots of large theaters and sang there.
Wow. Okay. So
Pops goes back even farther, and he was singing like Matinata and things like, not just arias, but he was singing Pops music.
So Jason, what happened? When did the opera world and the classical world become so rigid that it's like, oh, people like us have been frowned upon in our experiences when
I'm finding less and less of that, because I think things have shrunk in the in classical. There's been like less, and I think that there's a lot more people doing both now. You'll see a lot more opera singers doing Broadway repertoire. I mean, not always to great success, mind you, but it takes a very special singer to be able to do both. It's very different, But just like yourselves, it takes people who have a different sensibility. You have to understand the other genres. You can't just, like, I heard one singer try to do it, and it was like, oh, it just didn't work. It's like you have to understand that genre. I laugh when people tell me that rock is easy. I'm like, oh my God, then you've never I'm watching my son put together these yes charts. I'm like, oh my God, this stuff's really hard.
Yeah.
Musically challenging, complicated. It's pretty hard stuff. And, you have to know that. You got to understand the genre. Just like you have to know how to sing an aria. You have got to know how Verdi performance practice works. You have to have the technique lined up. And if you don't, it's going to be a disaster.
Yeah, you don't have the bel canto technique.
Yeah.
Done.
Honestly, I learned a lot from Natalia. I mean, Natalia comes from more like a pop background as well. So I learned a ton. Like, she has brought in so much of like pop sensibilities, both musically and performance-wise, that would not have been on my
Gilad
radar.
is like, what is this song? I never heard it. I'm like, how you didn't heard it? Every person in the world knows about.
I don't have a car. I don't listen to the radio. I live in Manhattan.
But he is bringing this amazing, like, obviously Queen, everybody know, but he brings the rock, the true rock, authentic singing that I always learn from too. So.
It's nice.
Well, it's a great combination. You guys bring different
voice feature also. It's nice.
It's wonderful. You bring different elements to bear. You bring different strengths and weaknesses. It's exciting that you guys have found each other, and I look forward to seeing what the next chapter is going to be. So after this concert on Tuesday, what are the plans coming up?
So we are doing what we're doing.
We are performing privately as well, but we're actually going to release some few songs to Spotify. So that is exciting.
Yeah.
So you can hear us in the car.
Yes. Yes.
Or on the headphones if people are wandering around, crashing into other people on New York City streets.
Yeah, and a little bit different than your usual crossover. We're really excited to see how the crossover audience would react to hearing the stuff that we're doing, kind of peppered in like in a Spotify playlist with, the Bocellis and the, maybe like the Bublés and, the Captain Jenkins of the world. And all of a sudden it's like Voce Nova singing, Libiamo with a Moroccan beat, or singing Time to Say Goodbye with a lot of guitars in it, or, or Carmen with Santana. it's gonna be interesting. We are super excited about it because, like you said, it's about trying new things.
Got to get a shout out from Santana. I bet he would like that too. Personally, he's such a great musician. He would totally get it.
I think they would love it. I mean, I sing this from Dortmund, "We Are the Champions," and I wrote the other day because it was Freddie Mercury. It would have been Freddie Mercury's 75th birthday the other day, and I said, I really want to think that I truly believe that if he heard what we do, he would have loved it.
He loved classical music. Certainly, he was such an interesting. What an innovator he was with his choice of orchestrations and vocals and layering, and what a genius.
Definitely an inspiration for Voce Nova as individuals and as an act. Really, I mean, wonderful. And listen, we discussed it before, but I'm just going to put it out in a public forum. We would love to collaborate with you, Jason.
I'm doing a lot of. I'm an orchestra contractor, and I do a lot of different types of things. But man, I love doing interesting pops concerts, and people really enjoy them. I do a lot in Long Island, and outdoor events sometimes. And this summer has been a good one. It's starting to happen. So let's keep exploring that. I'm all in. So I think that sounds like a lot of fun.
Awesome.
We'll put it out there into the ether. Where can people go to find out more about you guys, and should they subscribe to your YouTube channel?
No, don't subscribe. Unsubscribe. No, definitely subscribe to our channel, Voce Nova Music, and also we are on vocenova.com.
And on Instagram also, Voce Nova Music, and Facebook at Voce Nova Music, and vocenova.com, VOCENOVA is where you can also buy tickets to our next show and see some more videos. We have some cool stuff coming up. We actually just sang the national anthem in a baseball game.
In my home county. I wasn't there. I was down at the shore, but I love it there. I love that Boulder Stadium.
We had a great time.
My daughter just graduated high school from there about 2 months ago. And
okay.
I know it well.
The Boulders. So we had a wonderful time there. And that's going to be coming up on the website soon. So more and more things to come. And if anyone who's watching or listening has a private event or a corporate event, on fundraisers or galas, that is our bread and butter. That's what we love doing, and we love tailoring the show specifically to the client. And because we work with Asaf, our music producer, if there are specific themes or songs that our clients ask for, they are made specifically for them, which is something that not a lot of acts can offer. So we are very happy to be able to offer that as well.
Personal touch, really exciting. And which arias do you love? Which pieces do you love? Which songs? That sounds like a great night at the theater, and especially a perfect private event too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where are some of the most interesting private events you've done?
Tell me about it.
Now, I can tell you we had another guest on here. I think a friend of both of ours, Marcy Richardson, said she performed at a private event that Madonna was right in front of her and watched her do her show.
Yeah, Marcy's
somewhere
amazing.
in the Hamptons, I think, if she was telling me.
No pressure whatsoever. But I got an interesting call from a friend of mine. He's singing in all these kind of weddings, and he has a wedding band. He's a producer, and he told me, "Listen, I need you guys to sing and do
a flash mob. Opera flash mob.
During a reception, so we're going to be dressed up as waiters, and out of the blue, start singing.
After walking around and pouring water for everybody for 20 minutes.
And that's fun.
Rudely rejected. I was like, wow, I don't want to be a waiter after this. But that was definitely interesting. Because again, it's all about the wow factor. It's all about making fun again.
This is the most talented waiting staff ever.
Right. And all of a sudden, in the middle of the dinner, La donna è mobile. What?
That's some good theater. I like that. That's really clever.
And believe me, I was surprised that nobody dropped their drink when they were going, yeah. They loved it. It was a crazy day. It was a crazy day, but it was a very opulent wedding, and it was definitely one for the books.
Well, that's a pretty great night. I want to thank you both for coming on Music Matters. Gilad, for welcome back the second time. Natalie, we'll have to have you back again another time. I want to hear when you have some next big concert coming up. Make sure you come by and join us again. And we'll have to have you guys perform live on one of our shows down the road.
Thank you very much, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
I hope so, and I can't wait to see the act and to hear the new material. So thank you so much. Thank you for joining us on Music Matters with Jason Tramm. Please remember to subscribe to us on YouTube and follow all our social media platforms on YouTube, Spotify, and all the others, Instagram and such. You can also hear us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. Thank you so much for joining us, and remember, keep music alive.